Good day to you all. Thank you for showing up for this video, for this talk, wherever it is that you are. Today is the four cornerstones of love. It's the fifth part. So if you're tuning in and you haven't seen the rest, I'd recommend you do. It's part of the series of Love the New Paradigm, and this is talk number 8 on 25th of May, 2025. Let's get going. Let's do a recap of what we talked about, or what I talked about, obviously, not we, in the last talk. So, as I said, this is the 8th talk in the series of Love the New Paradigm. That is what all of these talks are about, how to shift over from the paradigm of fear, which is what we're currently in, over to a new framework, a new paradigm, a new set of values, which is the values of love. And the only way you can do that is to learn about what love is and what the values of love actually are. We explored, or I explored, empathy as the first cornerstone of love, not just as a feeling, but as a conscious choice in everyday life. I then went on to share an example, one that we've all experienced. And the example was what it would be like or feel like, or what you would do if you were ignored. We then unpacked that, the spiral of stories that we tell ourselves, and then the impacts of these stories. I then went on to talk about how, instead of us reacting from ego, which tends to be the default of what we do, we can practice pausing, checking in, and reconnecting. I then shared a personal development opportunity in which you could practice this in your everyday life. I then gave you a little bit of an opportunity designed to enable you to go away and see if you can put what it is that you're learning into practice. Don't know how many of you did that. If you did, I want that in the comments. If you didn't, pop that in the comments too. Go on, why don't you? So last week's closing question, what was it? A question for reflection. Where in your life right now could you pause, suspend your ego, and make the first move to check in with someone? Not to defend yourself, not to justify, or to attack, but to truly understand them. Do you remember that? Did you see that? Did you play a part in it? Did you reflect upon it? Did you do anything with it? Yes? No? Possibly. Well, I had somebody who wrote in and shared this with me. So thank you very much to the somebody whose name you will find out in any moment. So I got back this. It's with my mum. We drifted lately, and I've been carrying this story that she doesn't really care or want to know me anymore. But I realized that might be my fear talking, old hurt and not truth. So I messaged her. Nothing complicated or wordy. I just asked how she was doing. She replied straight away with warmth, interest, and engaged. Even said how much she missed me. It reminded me that sometimes the story I get stuck in needs a little reflection. Sometimes the story isn't even real, and often the other person is just hoping to hear from us. Absolutely. And that was from Rhys. Thank you very much, Rhys. That is a lovely example. I hear quite a few people talk about examples with their parents. So it's really, really important for us to reflect upon why it is that we do what we do. Okay? What you do with that reflection is up to you. I am not saying that you must take this reflection and you must go away and act upon it and do a ton of stuff. Not at all. If you do, that's great. If you want to, fantastic. The point is not that. The point is, if you want to move from a paradigm, a thought process, a way of thinking, a set of beliefs and values that are driven by fear, then you have to understand exactly what they are, exactly what is being said, exactly what it is that you believe. And only then is it that you can make the changes it is that you really want to. So by reflecting upon your actions, or lack of, you are able to understand what is motivating you, why it is motivating you, and where that comes from in your history. It's part of a story. It's part of a narrative. It's part of your past. And what you want to do is start to understand that, reflect upon it in order for you to then be free of it. If it is something that is affecting you now in your everyday present life, if it's getting in the way of you achieving, being, feeling, doing whatever it is that you want to do, it's important that you understand it so that you can then tweak, adjust, heal, change, or maybe even archive away those thoughts, that narrative, those beliefs, and start to build more healthier, balanced values, beliefs, thoughts, whatever it might be. So thank you again very much for that, Rhys. That was great. So through pride, we are deceiving ourselves. No, but we are. But deep down below the surface of the average conscience, a still small voice says to us, something is out of tune. And that's Carl Jung. Thank you, Carl Jung. It's very helpful. Now, what does pride look like? Because thank you very much, Mr. Jung, mentioning pride to us. But what is pride? There's loads of narratives and loads of perspectives out there. But let's have a little bit of a look as to what an accurate or a more balanced definition of pride is. Those arrows aren't supposed to be there, but that's okay. Pride is the voice that says, I have to be right. I have to look good. I have to be better. It's not confidence, it's armor, a way the ego protects itself from feeling small, exposed, or wrong. It's often rooted in fear. It's actually always rooted in fear, but okay. Fear of not being enough, or possibly the fear of being rejected, the fear of being vulnerable, or maybe even the fear of losing control. Which one is it for you? Can you relate to any of those? Or is it the fear of something else? Is it the fear of abandonment? I'll do it first so that you don't have to, so that I don't have to then feel let down. I don't know. Which is it for you? And so pride steps in with defensiveness. You can see where the arrows were supposed to be pointing now, can't you? Superiority, avoidance of humility, or a need to win rather than to connect. These are all part of our ego, okay? The ego is driven by fear, not instinctual fear, not innate fear, egoic fear, greed, power, or desire. Yeah? It's driven by those. It doesn't have the ability to be driven by anything else. And so for you to be driven by something else, you would have to step outside of the ego. You would have to suspend your ego. Don't get me wrong. The ego can be quite useful in society and with the fear-based principles that we live in and values that we live in. The ego is there to protect you. It absolutely is. However, in order for you to reflect, in order for you to grow, to become more emotionally intelligent and mature, in order for you to start to be free of your past and the narratives that no longer serve you, you have to suspend your ego to be able to look at yourself humbly, honestly, in a very, very vulnerable way, and then work on those parts of you that are holding you back. The ego doesn't want you to do that. Why? It thinks it's protecting you. But actually, and it was once, don't get me wrong, it was protecting you once. But now, no. Now it's getting in the way of your growth. And so you want to be able to suspend your ego when you choose to. And that's the aim of the game here, is your choice to do it. Nobody's saying you have to do anything. Have to? No. Love never tells you you have to do anything. What love says, though, is choose. Do you have the ability to choose? If you don't, then you want to have a look at that. Question for reflection. Where in your life might pride be protecting a deeper fear and getting in the way of real connection or growth? Where in your life might pride be protecting a deeper fear and getting in your way of real connection or growth? What might you discover if you looked beneath the pride, if you lifted it up and had a look underneath? Not to shame yourself. No, never. Love would never, ever shame you. But to understand what's truly at the root of your reaction or your resistance. It's a beautiful thing, reflection. What it does is it gives you the choice to be free from it. It gives you the choice to look at it, to give it a cuddle, to give it a kiss on the forehead, to hug it and to help it heal, to help it get what it needs so that it can be free. Believe me, it doesn't want to be there either. It wants to be off flying around somewhere. Set it free. Give it a cuddle. Give it a kiss. The 4 cornerstones of love. I spoke of empathy in the last video, and today, as that gorgeous circle there shows you, we're talking of respect. Respect isn't something you demand. No, what a myth. What a myth in society it is. I demand you to respect me. It doesn't work that way. That is not a healthy version of respect. Okay, that's not a love-based version of respect. Respect is never something you demand. It's something we choose to be with ourselves and others. Respect is not pointing a finger. Actually, if you were being respectful, you would never point the finger because you are being respectful of them. And me being respectful of me would be then acting upon that based on what it is that I need, not what it is that they need to be doing. It's not respect. That's you trying to get somebody to do something because you feel a way about it. It's not respect. You need to get it right. We often think respect is about hierarchy or being right. But in love, respect is about how we interact with one another. Oh, yes, it really is. Do I allow you to be you? Make space for your truth, even when it challenges mine. Do I value your experience, even when it's not what I'd like, what I want, or what I'd expect? And this is true respect. When you are able to hold a space for somebody else's truth when it challenges yours. Isn't that so powerful? Yes, it is. This is where empowerment actually exists. Do you value that person's experience even when you don't like it, you don't want it, or you don't expect it? Do you value it for their truth? Obviously, we're talking about people that you love here. If it's somebody that you don't love, you don't have to value it. You can just go, all right, even though we can learn something from everybody. There is nobody on this earth that can't teach you something about yourself or about the world or about humanity and your growth. Even if it's teaching you how it is that you would never like to be, it is still teaching you something. Everyone is still teaching you something. So respect holding a space for difference. Absolutely. Isn't that a lovely title? It is. How many times have you felt dismissed or unheard and found yourself shutting down, getting angry or not knowing how to respond, and later wishing you had handled it differently? I think we can all relate to that, can't we? Have you asked yourself what happens when you stop needing to prove yourself and start practicing the kind of respect that makes room for differences, room for emotions, and the ability to agree to disagree? I know so many of you are going to be sighing and tutting at the screens and pointing and possibly even calling it names. Tough. Agreeing to disagree is the most powerful thing that you can do. And I'll get into why in a bit. You keyboard warriors, go for it in the comments below. Respect isn't about following rules or proving who is right and who is wrong. It's not about shrinking your truth. It's about respecting the fact that each person holds the right to have their own opinion. Let me just say that again. It's about respecting the fact that each person holds the right to have their own opinion. We've lost that. We've completely lost it. Apparently, we are not allowed to have our own opinions. That's not fair and that's not respectful. We are allowed to. Should you take this out of context, you'll turn it into all sorts of things. I'm talking about everyday life here at the moment. Everyday Western society, general Joe Bloggs' life. Take it out of context, we'll be having different conversations, but that's not for this video. For this video, I'm talking about everyday life experiences. And in those, when someone tells you they have an opinion that is different to yours, they have every right to have it. They really do. So as do you, have every right to hold a completely different opinion, even a polarity of an opinion, even the polar opposite of the person standing in front of you. And that's absolutely okay. That's actually love when you are respecting each other's rights. That's love. Fear would tell the other person that they're not allowed to think that, or they're not allowed to believe that. Fear and ego does that. Love doesn't feel threatened by an opinion that is not mirrored by you. Fear does. Remember that about yourself. The next time you're out there and somebody says something to you about your opinion, remember they are threatened by it. Why? They're scared. Why? Well, that's something that they need to look at, really. You don't need to highlight that. You don't want to get into arguments. But what you do want to do is realize that when you are following the values of love, you're allowed to have your own opinion. And always do. It's okay. Yeah, as long as we're not going out there actively trying to hurt anybody, actively trying to be detrimental in any way to another human being, emotionally, physically, or psychologically, then it's okay to have your own opinion. It really is. It's the ability to stay present even when you feel challenged, and to allow someone else's perspective even when it doesn't mirror your own. Let's explore how this can shift the energy between us when we are using respect as a way of being and not as a reaction to who or what deserves it. Shall we? With respect, without respect, let's have a look. So, without respect, you're in a conversation with someone you care about. They say something that you completely disagree with. Maybe it feels unfair. You react fast, defend yourself, throw something back. Their face changes, they go quiet, and the energy between you and the conversation shifts. The conversation ends without resolution. You feel tense, misunderstood, maybe even a little ashamed. It doesn't sit right, but you're not sure what to do with that now. Later, it loops in your mind. Why? Why did I react like that? I feel bad now. But wait, it wasn't even my fault. Like, I didn't even... okay, well, maybe I could have waited before I reacted. You start to realize that you weren't really listening. You were just trying to get them to see and understand your point, or possibly defend yourself. That's what happens when fear takes over and there is no respect. We don't feel more confident from that. We actually feel more confused. And the space where knowledge and understanding could have happened instead becomes another missed opportunity for awareness. What we're not doing enough of is utilizing our conversations, our disagreements, our differences of opinion to actually build knowledge on one another, to try to understand why somebody has a different perspective to us. We are all unique beings, and it's really important to understand that our entire upbringing, actually our genes, our lineage dictates many of our belief systems. And so we will have differing opinions. Some people will know why and others won't even understand fully why. Our job is to understand why. Our job is to understand what. It is not necessarily to change it if you don't want to, but it's definitely to understand what you believe, why you believe it, and where the root of that comes from. Understand your lineage, understand your culture, understand the society you live in, and understand how all of that impacts you. And then ask yourself, am I choosing, or has it or they or them chosen me? It's a great question to ask. Of course it is. Now, let's look at with respect. You're in the same conversation with someone you care about. They say something you completely disagree with. You feel the urge to snap back, to defend, or maybe even to just walk away. But this time, you pause. You take a breath. You wait. Steady and ground yourself instead of reacting. You say, can I check something with you? That felt a bit rude and dismissive. Can you tell me what you meant by? They pause. Their tone softens. They open up. You listen. Hear their perspective. The tension begins to ease. Not because you agree, not even necessarily because you truly understand, but because you stayed open. You didn't react subjectively. You remained balanced. You remained in love. You remained respectful. The conversation shifts. You still disagree, but something between you feels more comfortable. You both feel seen. You both feel heard. That's what respect allows. Not silence, not surrender. Just the space to stay connected with respect, even in disagreement. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Like really, it really is. And the world be a much more beautiful place with more loving respect. With ego and without respect, what happens? We can become defensive. There could be withdrawal. There tends to be confusion. There is blame, often miscommunication, and always disconnection. The focus shifts to who's right instead of building knowledge on each other's perspectives and why. Understanding why. It ends with tension, a lack of understanding, distance, and ultimately resentment. Now, with respect and without ego, what are we left with? We've now created a safe space. It's created and it's been held with authenticity and deeper understanding. So with respect, I am still going to be completely authentic. Do you see? You don't shrink yourself or your truth. Actually, you are able to be even more authentic and have and gain an even deeper understanding. The focus shifts to listening and allowing rather than being heard, understood, or being right. The focus shifts to listening and allowing rather than being heard, being understood, or being right. It ends with more awareness and perspectives rather than distance and conflict. Voila. Isn't that a lovely ending? It really is. Not just that, everybody walks away with growth. Everybody walks away with more knowledge, with more understanding, more congruent, as opposed to conflicted with tension, a lack of understanding, distance, and resentment. Which would you rather have? Doesn't make sense. Why would we choose that? Really doesn't make sense. And it's only in the paradigm of fear is it that you will behave that way, because fear will drive you to, because fear is trying to protect you. And so you are going to be defensive and you will withdraw. There will be tension. There'll be blame. There'll be confusion. And that's what the ego does. That's what fear does. Remember, innate fear is important. It keeps you safe, but this isn't innate fear. This is egoic fear. This is the fear of something that may or may not happen based in a future that actually doesn't exist. It is not an immediate threat, right? This is, and I'm talking about everyday life instances. I am not talking about things that you take out of context. Please don't do that. I'm talking about everyday life, Western society, us hanging about, doing what we're doing in society as it is in the sort of norm of generalization, okay? The real lesson, what is the real lesson? Yaz, tell us. The real lesson, respect is not about avoiding conflict. It's about how we stay present in the face of it. Isn't that beautiful? When we let go of the need to be right, we make space to truly see each other. And that's where real connection lives. If you're feeling disconnected and lonely, please understand it is probably because your primary mode of function is fear-based. Not in perfect harmony, but in the courage to stay open when it would be easier to stay shut down, become frustrated, or turn away. Respect cuts through it all. Remember, when we talk about respect, first and foremost, it is always respect for yourself first. It is never about another first. I first respect my right to be me. And if I am following the values and ethics of love, then my right to be me will also dictate your right to be you. Meaning, I have the right to be me, you have the right to be you. You want to have a conversation, let's have it. However, it's not about who's right or wrong, because actually nobody's right and nobody's wrong. Nobody's good and nobody's bad. We are all driven by fear or driven by ego. And when driven by fear, we will behave in ways that is not only detrimental to ourselves, but detrimental to everybody else. And this is what we want to have a look at, not to label it and judge it, but to understand it. Why? Because then we can make the changes it is that we are also very desperately seeking to make. Question 4, reflection. Where in your life might frustration or defensiveness be blocking your chance for real connection? And what would it look like to stay open instead? It's a good question, yes. Isn't it just? Try asking yourself, what part of me is trying to protect something right now? And what might shift if I chose curiosity instead? Imagine if you were curious about why that person believed what they did, even if it was completely opposing to what you believe. Imagine if you went, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. What is it that drives you, motivates you to have that opinion? Okay, well, that's interesting. No, I don't agree with it. And okay, let's agree to disagree. And if they want to have a debate with me, and if I want one, great. I personally am not up for debates, so I'm really not that bothered. At the end of the day, you have an opinion, you have an opinion. I'm not here to prove anybody right or wrong. I am here, though, to act as congruently within my framework and my paradigm of ethics and values that I choose. And so that's what I'm here to do, whether somebody likes it or not, or whether they agree with me or not, or if they think it's stupid, or if they think it's wrong or good or bad. They're allowed to have that opinion. And they really are. And it's okay to have that. I have mine. You have yours. We just need to start to learn to work with each other, even when we don't agree with each other. Closing thoughts. Respect isn't always easy. No, it really isn't. But that's not the point. And no, everybody else isn't necessarily doing it out there. I know. But a true leader, an inspirational leader, is the one that practices what they preach and they lead the rest there. So do you know what? If nobody else is doing it around you, lead it. Be the person that is using respect. Be that person. Be the person that chooses love and not fear. Be that person. The world needs more people like that. Respect isn't always easy, especially when we're feeling triggered or misunderstood. But each time we pause, each time we listen and stay open, we plant the seed for real connection. In a world that's quick to react, that choice becomes a rare superpower. One we access only when we choose love. Just like all just like all true superheroes do. What do you want to be? You want to be a superhero or you want to be a villain? The superheroes choose love. The villains choose fear and ego. Which one do you want to be? You want to be a superhero? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's create more superheroes. Let's all get out there and let's superhero ourselves into the world. Where in your life might frustration or defensiveness be blocking your chance for real connection? This is your question for reflection. And what would it look like to stay open instead? Can you think of an example right now where you currently become quite egoic in discussions or debates or arguments with somebody that you care about, and that now you're going, actually, maybe I could make a shift here? Why don't you go and try that this week? See what happens. Do it from love, for love. First, for you. You're not doing it for anybody else. Remember that. I'm not asking you to martyr yourself off. I'm asking you to do this for you. Love for you. And then respect for another. If you love them, great. Check out my video next week where we are going to delve in deeper into knowledge. I will give you examples just like this, but it will be about knowledge. Thank you very much for joining me. Please do write down your reflections in the comments below. I'd love to hear what came up for you when watching or hearing or anything it is that you've done with this particular video. If you have any questions or insights, send them over and they may be included in next week's video. Thanks a lot. Bye.